During my travels this summer, I had the opportunity to spend a few days visiting with some friends up in Cincinnati, a city that I called home for over 25 years during most of my young adulthood. One afternoon while I was there this summer, I drove by a place called the Athenaeum of Ohio. It's a Roman Catholic seminary over on the east side of Cincinnati. I instantly recalled the months that I spent there taking graduate level courses in Christian history, ethics, and theology. It was a part of my seminary training to become a UU minister. Now, for me, studying at a Roman Catholic seminary was both a blessing and a challenge. I found it really enjoyable to be able to learn about other people's traditions and beliefs in theology. Yet I also found, at times, much of Catholic doctrine and teachings were very different than my own spiritual understandings. Thinking about all this brought to mind a particular story that has stayed with me all these years later. One afternoon, in a class at the Athenaeum about biblical history, Father Ross, the priest who was teaching the class, said in passing that he was available to talk with any of the students if they were experiencing dryness. Now, I was the only person in that room who was either not already a priest or very soon becoming one. What was this dryness that he was talking about? Was it a skin condition that afflicts priests? Maybe like, irritation around the neck caused by those collars they wear, right? Was it a state of dehydration, the results of drinking too much communion wine? I wondered, did I need to worry about this dryness? Or was it just a Catholic thing? Well, at the end of class that day, I stopped to ask Father Ross what he meant by dryness. I told him, I've never heard of this. Well, he told me that spiritual dryness happens when we are not feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit. It's those moments when we are praying and we don't sense that God is there on the other end. We reach out, and all we get is silence in return. Father Ross explained that this dryness was something that happened to just about everyone from time to time. All of the great saints had battled it, from Francis of de Sales to Ignatius of Loyola. One might say that even Jesus had it on the cross when he cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" The Catholic Catechism says that dryness is when our heart is separated from God and we find we have no taste for spiritual thoughts. Now, the Catholic Church teaches that such times are valuable tests of our faith. They call us to persevere in our practices of piety and devotion, despite our doubts, and thus prove our loyalty to the Lord. In short, Father Ross said, the only way to overcome this dryness is to pray your way out of it. Well, today I want to talk with you a little bit about doubt, about those times when our faith in what it is that we believe in gets shaken. Those moments when we do not know what to think anymore, what to do next, or where to turn for help. Now, I am not going to tell you to pray your way out of it. I don't think that that is advice that would resonate across the grand diversity of theologies and beliefs we have in this congregation. But I do think that it might be something to consider if we think of this idea of prayer more broadly. If prayer is really just a way of summoning truth, of intentionally affirming what it is that sustains us and gives us meaning, honestly naming our feelings and expressing our gratitude and our sorrow, then perhaps that kind of prayer is a path through these dark nights of the soul. We Unitarian Universalists have always been people who have held humanity in high esteem. We celebrate the incredible intelligence, creativity, and wisdom that our species is capable of. During the last century, many among our fold dispensed with the whole notion of dependency on supernatural sources to guide them, and instead embraced the belief that we each have the freedom and the ability to determine our own path, our own destiny. This has shaped our tradition into a movement that's all about empowerment, engagement. It's offered us the autonomy to seek enlightenment, unfettered from outdated teachings and constricting dogmas. But the problem with this can be that all this empowerment can send us the message that we are supposed to know what we're doing. If we are really in charge, if we really have all this freedom, all this ability, then it can feel like we're failing if we're not sure who we are or where we're going. Of course, for every one of us, there are those moments when we just don't know. Even the most confident among us secretly harbor misgivings and uncertainties. The ones who appear on the outside to be the most in charge still have their doubts too. Admitting that is the only way to open ourselves to greater wisdom. The Taoist master Lao Tzu said, "There can be no honor without humility. No heights can be reached without being low." And that sounds pretty good. But, the truth is that the world is not as patient as Lao Tzu. Our society often demands that we be strong. It can be quick to judge us as weak if we're lost in ambiguity. It is incredibly hard to live in a state of doubt and insecurity for very long and still feel like a good person. So how do we move through those times when whatever it is that we have confidence in, be it God or ourselves or our community, when those things fail us and we call out for help and get no response? When we experience that dryness that Father Ross was referring to, that Mother Teresa wrote about so personally, well, what do we do? One answer is to fake it, to decide that we are going to pretend that we know what we're doing, even when we do not, imagining that we have the confidence and hoping that if we just keep going, maybe we will eventually find the way. I cannot tell you how many times as a minister I have walked into someone's hospital room or shown up at an interfaith event or a protest rally, having absolutely no idea what to say, what to do, or even what is expected of me. That feeling of being out of my depth and totally unprepared was perhaps most acute for me during the time that I spent serving as a student chaplain in a hospital back in 2010. Now, before that, I had taken classes, academic classes, about pastoral care in seminary. I had become well versed in all the theories of compassionate listening and counseling. I had read a whole lot of books. But suddenly, there I was, in an actual hospital, being told that I had to go in there and visit with real live patients. And not just your everyday patients. I got assigned to the detox floor. So these were real live patients who were struggling so deeply with their addictions that many of them were at risk of dying. On those first days in that hospital, well, let's just say I was a little overwhelmed. One of my other student chaplains, who was new to this whole type of work as well, had been assigned to the neonatal intensive care unit, where all of the patients were dangerously premature babies, and she would be there to counsel their very worried parents. Over lunch one day, she and I started talking about our feelings, and she told me that she was as freaked out about all this as I was. Together, over lunch, we decided that the only way forward was to fake it until we made it. No matter how nervous or afraid we might be, we just pushed on that door of that hospital room. We would just go and we just did it. We visited with those patients, pretending we knew what the heck we were doing. And you know, over time, it started to work. What was originally really hard gradually became just a little bit easier. Now, not that some of our visits with our patients weren't still incredibly challenging or even heartbreaking. Not that we didn't mess up and say the wrong thing from time to time. Not that we were able to really ever solve anybody's problems. But we were able to be there for them. Now, I want to be clear that in this situation, faking it did not mean pretending to care when we didn't. It meant instead forcing out all those doubts, all those misgivings, all those fears out of our minds long enough to let our very genuine care and compassion come through. This whole process of becoming more comfortable and growing in my skills as a caregiver was helped immensely by having other chaplains to talk with, to reflect with about their experiences and their feelings. I found out that even very experienced clergy that had worked in that hospital for years still struggled with very difficult life and death situations. I discovered, too, that the truth is nobody wants to be on a detox floor in a hospital. And so my own fear, my own uncertainty, at least on some level, could help me connect with others in their fragility, their desperation, their very real fear. You know, we hear a lot these days about the value of authenticity. You hear folks say it all the time. I voted for that guy because he tells it like it is, right? Of course, that's kind of beyond ironic, since the level of lying and untruths in our politics is off the scales these days, right? It's 2025, and every single movie is filled with CGI effects. All of our music is auto-tuned. AI text and images are everywhere. All of this makes us yearn for realness. It makes us suspicious about everything we see and hear and read. Is that real? or not. And when we do look really hard, when we do seek out what is real, often, oh God, that's not so good. It's violence. It's divisiveness. It's oppression. It's just mean. Reality does not feel very good sometimes, and it can leave us feeling hopeless. Perhaps this is a good time to embrace that idea of faking it until you make it. Maybe despite our dread and our uncertainty and our despair, we just have to hold on to our belief that goodness and justice is real, even when we're not seeing it enough. Maybe we just have to hang on to our confidence in the power of love and compassion to transform us and others, even if all we're feeling is that dryness, that emptiness, like Mother Teresa. Maybe the answer is simply to go boldly forward with a vision of ourselves as part of a mighty force for change and for peace, even when we might feel like powerless little peons. Now, we can pretend a lot, but we cannot pretend to care. We cannot pretend to be doing something. We cannot fake that. We have to actually get out there and try. Despite all of our misgivings, we got to just keep showing up and speaking out, regardless of whether we truly believe it will matter or not. We have to persevere and know that others are out there doing the same thing. And maybe if we are all faking it together, just maybe we will all make it together. Who knows? The psychologist and author Sheldon Kopp wrote these words. This is it, my friends. There are no hidden meanings. There is no particular reason why you lost out on some things. The world is not necessarily just. Nevertheless, you have a responsibility to do your best. There may be no way to get all you want. Often things are as bad as they seem. Even so, some of the time it is still possible to enjoy life as it is. What is a person to do about feeling helpless? For a while, there is just no way to see what is funny. It's really easy to get stuck. And at last to cry out, "Why me?" And then to hear God say back, "Why not you?" We wait for everything to be all right, knowing all the while that the next problem is already in the mail. Life just keeps coming at us until we realize that there is nothing really to figure out, that life is not about anything, because the answers are always changing, even as the questions remain the same. It helps to know that everyone is in the same situation. We are all living with the fragility of partial freedom, partial power, partial knowledge. We must learn the power of living with our helplessness and beginning again and again and again. Remember, you are not in this alone. We may be a little lost, but thank God we are lost together. Truly words to live by today. Amen. And so may it be.